The young crab and his mother. "Why in the world do you walk sideways like that?" said the mother crab to her son. "You should always walk straight forward with your toes turned out." "Show me how to walk, mother dear," answered the little crab obediently. "I want to learn." So the old crab tried and tried to walk straight forward, but she could walk sideways only, like her son. And when she wanted to turn her toes out, she tripped and fell on her nose. Do not tell others how to act unless you can set a good example.
The Wolf and the Crane. A wolf had been feasting too greedily, and a bone had stuck crosswise in his throat. He could get it neither up nor down, and of course he could not eat a thing. Naturally, that was an awful state of affairs for a greedy wolf. So away he hurried to the crane. He was sure that she, with her long neck and bill, would easily be able to reach the bone and pull it out. "I will reward you very handsomely," said the wolf, "if you pull that bone out for me." The crane, as can you imagine, was very uneasy about putting her head in a wolf's throat, but she was grasping in nature, so she did what the wolf asked her to do. When the wolf felt that the bone was gone, he started to walk away. "But what about my reward?" called the crane anxiously. "What?" snarled the wolf, wheeling around. "Haven't you worried? Isn't it enough that I let you take your head out of my mouth without sniping it off? Expect no reward for serving the weak."
The Fox and the Grapes. A fox one day spied a beautiful bunch of ripe grapes hanging from a vine trained along the branches of a tree. The grapes seemed ready to burst with juice, and the fox's mouth watered, and he hastened longingly at them. The bunch hung from a high branch, and the fox had to jump for it. The first time he jumped, he missed it by a long way, so he walked off a short distance and took a running leap at it, only to fall short once more. Again and again he tried, but it failed. Now he sat down and looking at the grapes in disgust. "What a fool I am," he sighed. "Here I am wearing myself out to head a bunch of sour grapes that are not worth hoping for." And of the walked very scornful. "There are many who pretend to despise and belittle that which is beyond their reach." Thank you.
The plane tree. Two travelers walking into noonday sun sought the shade of wheat springing tree to rest. As they lay looking up among the pleasant leaves, they saw that it was a plane tree. "How useless is the plane," said one of them. "It bears no fruit whatever, and only serves to litter the ground with leaves." "Ungrateful creatures," said a voice from the plane tree. "You lie here in my cooling shade, and yet you say I am useless. Thus ungratefully, O Jupiter, do men receive their blessings. Our best blessings are often the least appreciated." Thank you.
The Eagle and the Beetle. A beetle once begged the eagle to spare a hare which had run to her for protection, but the eagle pounced upon her prey, the sweep of her great wings tumbling the beetle 1,000 feet away. Furious at the disrespect shown her, the beetle flew to the eagle's nest and rolled out the eggs. Not one did she spare. The eagle's grief and anger knew no bounds. but who had done the cruel deed she didn't know. Next year, the eagle built her nest far up on a mountain crag, but the beetle found it and again destroyed the eggs. In despair, the eagle now implored great Jupiter to let her place her eggs in his lap. There none would dare harm them. But the beetle passed about Jupiter's head and made him rise to drive her away, and the eggs rolled from his lap. Now the beetle told the reason for her action, and Jupiter had to acknowledge the justice of her cause. And they say that ever after, while the eagle's eggs lie in the nest in spring, the beetle still sleeps in the ground, for so Jupiter commanded. Moral of the story: even the weakest may find means to avenge a wrong.
The Astrologer, a man who lived a long time ago, believed that he could read the future in the stars. He called himself an astrologer and spent his time at night gazing at the sky. One evening he was walking along the open road outside the village. His eyes were fixed on the stars. He thought he saw there that the end of the world was at hand. When all at once down he went into a hole full of mud and water. There he stood up to his ears in the muddy water and madly climbed at the slippery sides of the hole in this effort to climb out. His cries for help soon broke the villagers running. As they pulled him out of the mud, one of them said, "You pretend to read the future in the stars, and yet you fail to see what is at your feet? This may teach you to pay more attention to what is right in front of you and let the future take care of itself." "What use is it," said another, "to read the stars when you can see what's right here on the earth? Take care of the little things and the big things will take care of themselves."
There was once a countryman who possessed the most wonderful ghost you can imagine it. For every day when he visited the nest, the ghost had laid a beautiful glittering golden egg. The countryman took the eggs to market as soon began to get rich, but it was not long before he grew impatient with the ghost, because she gave him only a single golden egg a day. He was not getting rich fast enough. The one day, after he had finished counting his money, the idea came to him that he could get all the golden eggs at once by killing the ghost and cutting it open. But when the deed was done, not a single golden egg did he find, and his precious ghost was dead. Moral: that who have plenty want more, and so last all that they have.
Divine Jackdaw and his buried feathers. A Jackdaw chanced to fly over the garden of the king's palace. There he saw with much wonder and envy a flock of royal peacocks in all the glory of their splendid plumage. Now the black Jackdaw was not a very handsome bird, nor very refined in manner. Yet he imagined that all he needed to make him fit for the society of the peasants was a dress like theirs, so, so he picked up some castoof feathers of the peacocks and stuck them among his own black plumes. Dressed in his puruved finery he strutted lovely among the birds of his own kind. Then he flew down into the garden among the peacocks, but, but they soon saw who he was. Angry at the cheat, they flew at him, plucking away the buried feathers and also some of his own. The poor captain returned sadly to his former companion. There another unpleasant surprise await him. They had, and not forgotten, his superior ars reward them, to punish him. They drove him away with a rain of pigs and jeers.
The Bear and the Beast. A bear roaming the woods in search of berries happened on a fallen tree in which a swarm of bees had stored their honey. The bear began to nose around the lawn, very careful to find out if the bees were at home. Just then one of the swarm came home from the clover field with a load of sweets. Guessing what the bear was after, the bee flew at him, stung him sharply, and then disappeared into the hollow log. The bear lost his temper in an instant, and sprang upon the long tooth and claw to destroy the nest. But this only brought out the whole swarm. The poor bear had to take to his heels, and he was able to save himself only by diving into a pool of water. Moral: it is a wizard to bear a single injury in silence than provoke 1,000 by flying into a rage.
The Wolf and the Lamb. A stray lamb stood drinking early one morning on the bank of a woodland stream. That very same morning a hungry wolf came by farther up the stream, hunting for something to eat. He soon got his eyes on the lamb. As a rule, Mr. Wolf snapped up such delicious morsels without making any bones about it. But this lamb looked so very helpless and innocent that the wolf felt he ought to have some kind of excuse for taking its life. "How dare you paddle around in my stream and stir up all the mud?" he shouted fiercely. "You deserve to be punished severely for your rashness." "But, your highness," replied the trembling lamb, "do not be angry. I cannot possibly muddy the water you are drinking up there. Remember, you are upstream and I am downstream." "You do muddy it," retorted the wolf savagely. "And besides, I have heard that you told lies about me last year. How could I have done so?" pleaded the lamb. "I wasn't born until this year. If it wasn't you, it was your brother. I have no brothers." "Well then," sneered the wolf, "it was someone in your family anyway, but no matter who it was, I do not intend to be told out of my breakfast." And without more words the wolf seized the poor lamb and carried her off to the forest. Morals of the story: 1. The tyrant can always find an excuse for his tyranny. 2. The unjust will not listen to the reasoning to the innocent. Thank you.
The Fox y the Leopard. A fox and a leopard, resting lazy after generous dinner amused themselves by disputing about their good looks. The leopard was very proud of his glossy, spirited coat and made disdainful remarks about the fox's glossy appearance he declared was quite ordinary. The fox prided himself on his fine beauty. Thy wit is deep of white, but the wasp wise enjoyed to see that. He could not rival the leopard in looks. Still he kept up a flow sarcastic talk, just to exercise his wits and to have the fun of disputing. The leopard was about to lose his temper when the fox got up, yawning lazy. "You might have a very smart coat," he said, "but you would be great deal better off if you had a little more smartness inside your head and less on your ribs. The way I am, that is what I call real beauty."
the gnat and the bull. A gnat flew over the meadow with much buzzing, for so small a creature, and settled on the tip of one of the horns of a bull. After I had rested a short time, I made it ready to fly away. But before he left, he begged the bull's pardon for having used his horn for a resting place. "You must be very glad to have me go now," he said. "It is all the same to me," replied the bull. "I did not even know you were there." We are often of greater importance in our own eyes than in the eyes of our neighbor. The smaller the mind, the greater the conceit.
And old lion was dead, and glad were that is what no easy for him to get food, and in his younger days pretended that he was sick. He did care to let all his neighbors know about it, and they lie down in his cave to wait for visitors, and they come to after him her stupid. He ate they up on be one. The fox come too, but he was very conscious about it, studying as safety distance for the cave. He scared Polly after the lion held. The lion replied that he was very enough, and snaked the fox to speed in for a moment, but Master Fox very wisely it should be glad to do as act you. It end, but I have noticed that there are many fortunes landing into your camp and money coming out. Please tell me, how do your visitor find their way out?
The Man and the Lion. A lion and a man chanced to travel in company through the forest. They soon began to quarrel, for each of them boasted that he and his kind were far superior to the other both in strength and mind. Now they reached a clearing in the forest, and there stood a statue. It was a representation of Heracles, in the act of the ruin the jaws on the Nemenian lion. "See," sighed the man, that's how strong we are. The king of beasts is like wax in our hands." "Ho!" laughed the lion. "A man made that statue. It would have been quite a different a scene had a lion made it." "It all depends on the point of view." And God tells the story.
Peacock in the Fox. A fox was caught in a trap one fine morning because he had to go too near the farmer's house. Not that the was hungry, but that was not an excuse for stealing. A cock rising early discovered what had happened. He went to fox could not tend on him, so he went a light close to get good look at his enemy. The fox saw a slender chance of escape. "Dear friends," he said, "I go on my way to visit and to relate, when I stumbled into the stream and go to tangle up. But please do not steal and but it. I like causing run to and bite and and jam Surrican someone destroyed to pieces. But the cock was to be so sly followed his son roasted the wheel Manger, and when the farmer cried running what that was the end of Mr. Box.
The Frog and the Mouse. A young mouse in search of adventure was running along the bank of a pond where lived a frog. When the frog saw the mouse, he went to the back and croaked, "Won't you pay me a visit? I can promise you a good time you do." The mouse did not need much coaxing, for he was very anxious to see the world and everything it in. But on he could swing a little. He did not dare risk going into the pond without some help. The frog had a plan. He tied the mouse led to his white tongue red. Then into the pond he jumped, drawing his foolish companion with him. The mouse saw enough of it and wanted to return to shore, but the treacherous frog had other plans. He pulled the mouse down under the water and drowned him, but before he could untie the red, that bound him to the mouse. A hand came sailing over the pond, seeing the body of the mouse floating on the water. The hand swam down, seized the mouse and carried it off, with the front dangling from his leg. Thus at one swam he caught both meat and fish for his dinner. Thus was it to harm either of them, could to harm themselves through their own deceit.
The Peacock and the Grain. A peacock puffed up with vanity met a grain one day, and to impress him spread his gorgeous tail in the sun. "Look," he said, "what have you to compare this is? I am dressing in the glory of the rainbow. Where you, fathers, are grain is dust." The grain split its broad wing and fly up toward the sun. "Follow me, if you can't," he said. But the peacock stood where at hand among the bursts of the barnyard, while the grains, shortening in freedom for up into the blue sky.
The Ass and His Shadow. A traveler had hired an ass to carry him to a distant part of the country. The owner of the ass went with the traveler, walking beside him to drive the ass and point out the way. The road led across a treeless plain where the sun beat down fiercely. So intense did the heat become that the traveler at last decided to stop for a rest. As there was no other shade to be found, the traveler sat down in the shadow of the ass. Now, the heat had affected the driver as much as it had the traveler, and even more, for he had been walking. Wishing also to rest in the shade cast by the ass, he began to quarrel with the traveler, saying he had hired the ass and not the shadow it cast. The two soon came to blows, and while they were fighting, the ass took to its heels. In quarreling about the shadow, we often lose the substance.
Raven, which you know is black as coal, was envious of the Swan, because her feathers were as white as the purest snow. That foolish bird got the idea that if he lived like the Sun, swimming and diving all day long and eating the weeds and plants that grow in the water, his feathers would turn white like the swan's. So he left his home in the woods and fields and flew down to live on the lakes and he marshes. But though he washed and washed all day long, almost drowning, him left at his feathers remained as black as ever, and the water which he did don't agree with him. He got thinner and thinner, and at last he
The hairs on the fruits, hairs, as you can know, are very tiny. The least shadow seems in scurrying I friend to a hiding place, instead deciding to retire and live in such misery. But while they hear debating how beings to me deep, they thought they heard a noise and in a flash were scampering out of the wearing. On the way we visited upon where a family of frogs was sitting among the rest of the banks. In an instant the startled frogs were seeking safety in the mud. Look, cried Harry, things are not so bad after all. For her creatures that are living afraid of us. However, unfortunately we might die where are is always someone worse off than ourselves.
The dog and his reflection. A dog to whom the butcher had thrown a bone was hurrying home with his prize as fast as he could go. As he crossed a narrow, fat bridge, he happened to look down and saw himself reflected in the quiet water, as if in a mirror. But the greedy dog thought he saw a real dog carrying a bone much bigger than his own. If he had stopped to think, he would have known better. But instead of thinking, he dropped his gun and sprang on the dog in the river, only to find himself swimming for dear life to reach the shore. At last he managed to scramble out, and as he stood, sat it, thinking about the good bone he had lost. He realized what a stupid dog he had been. It is very foolish to be greedy.
The flies and the honey. A jar of honey was upset and the sticky sweetness floated on the table. The sweet smell of honey soon brought a large number of flies buzzing around. They did not wait for an invitation. No, indeed. They settled right down, feeling all to your themselves. The flies were quickly smeared from head to foot with the honey. Their wings stuck together. They could not pour their fear out of sticky mass, and so they died, giving their lives the sake of a taste with sweetness. Be not ready for a little passing pleasure, it may destroy you.
The Monkey and the Dolphin. It happened once upon a time that a certain Greek ship bound for Athens was wrecked off the coast close to Perseus, the port of Athens. Had it not been for the dolphins, who at that time were very friendly toward mankind and especially toward Athenians, all would have perished, but the dolphins took the shipwrecked people on their backs and
Now it
swam
was
with
the
them
custom
among
among
the Greeks to take their pet monkeys and dogs with them wherever they went on a voyage. So when one of the dolphins saw a monkey trolling in the water, he thought it was a man, and made the monkey climb up on his back. Thereof he swam with him toward
monkey stood up,
the shore.
grave and
You
dignified,
are a
on the
citizen of
dolphin's back.
illustrious Athens, are you not?
Yes,
Asked
answered
the
the dolphin
monkey.
politely.
Proudly, my family is one of
Indeed,
the noblest
said the
in the
dolphin.
city. Then of course
Yes,
you often
yes,
visit, replied the
Piraeus.
monkey. Indeed I do. I am with him constantly.
This
Piraeus
answered
is
to
my
the
very
dolphin
best friend. By
friend.
surprise, and turning his head, he now saw what it was he was carrying. Without more ado, he dived and left the foolish monkey to take care of himself while he swam off in search of some human being to
Moral.
save. One falsehood leads to another.
The Monkey and the Cat.
Once upon a time, a cat and a monkey lived as pets in the same house. They were great friends and were constantly in all sorts of mischief together. What they seemed to think of more than anything else was to get something to eat, and it did no matter much to them how they got it. One day they were sitting by the fire, watching some chestnuts roasting on the hearth. How to get him was the question. I go ready get him, said the cunning monkey, but you are much more skillful at such thing that I am pulled him off and I'll divide the between us. Pussy stretched out her paw very carefully, pushed aside some of the cinders, and dragged back her paw very quickly. Then she tried it again, this time pulling a chestnut half out of the fire. A third time, and she dragged out the chestnut. This performance she went through several times, each time singing her bow severely as fast as the pulled the chestnuts off out of the fire. The monkey had them up. Now the master came in, and away scampered the rascals. Mistress Cat, we had burnt paw and no chestnuts from that time on. They say she contented herself with mice and rats and had little to with this monkey.
The Fisherman and the Little Fish. A poor fisherman lived and the fish a cat. Had bad lost one day and had nothing but a very small fry. The fisherman was about to put in his basket when the little fish said, "Please spare me, Mr. Fisherman. I am so small, it is not worth while to carry my own grain. I am bigger. It shall make you much better meal." But the fisherman quickly put the fish into his basket. "How foolish is she be," he said, "to throw you back. However small you may be, you are better than nothing at all. A small gain is worth more than a large promise. Thank you."
Jupiter and the Monkey. There was once a baby show among the animals in the forest. Jupiter issued a proclamation to all the beasts and promised a royal reward to the one who of spring should deem the handsomest. Of course, all the proud mammas from far and near brought their babies, but none got there earlier than Mother Monkey. Proudly, she presented her baby among the other contestants. As you can imagine, there was quite a laugh when the animals saw the ugly, flat-nosed, hairless, pop-eyed little creature. "Laugh if you will," said the mother monkey. Told Jupiter may not give him the prize. I know that he is the prettiest, the sweetest, the dearest darling in the world. Remember, mother love is blind.
The mice and the weasels. The weasels and the mice were always having arms against each other. In every battle the weasels carried off the victory, as well as a large number of the mice, which they ate for dinner next day. In despair the mice called a council,
Under it was decided that the mouse army was always beaten because it had no leaders. So a large number of generals and commanders were appointed from among the most eminent minds to distinguish themselves from the soldiers in the ranks. The new leaders proudly bound on their heads lofty crests and ornaments of feathers or straw. Then, after long preparation of the mouse army in all the arts of war, they sent a cadet to the weasels. The weasels accepted the challenge with eagerness, for the egg was ready for a fight when a meal was in sight. They immediately attacked the mouse army in large number. Soon the mouse line gave way before the attack and the whole army fled for cover. The privates easily slipped into their holes, but the mouse leaders could not squeeze through the narrow openings because of their heads dressed. Not one escaped the teeth of the angry weasels. Greatness has its penalties.
The wolf in sheep's clothing. A certain wolf could not yet known to eat because of the watchfulness of the shepherds. But one night he found a sheep skin that had been cast aside and forgotten. The next day, dressed in the skin, the wolf strolled into the pasture with the sheep. Soon a little lamb was following him about and was quickly led away to slaughter. That evening the wolf entered the fold with the flock, but it happened that the shepherd took a fancy for mutton broth that very evening, and picking up a knife, went to the fold. There the first he laid hands on a quick led was the wolf. The evil door often comes to harm through his own deceit. Thank you.
A raven and a swan. A raven, which you know is black as coal, was envious of the swan, because her feathers were as white as the poor snow. The foolish bird got the idea that if he lived like the swan, swimming and diving all day long and eating the weeds and plants that grow in the water, his feathers would turn white like the swan's. So he left his home in the woods and fields, and fell down to live on the lakes and in the marshes. But though he washed and washed all day long, almost drawing himself at it, his feathers remained as black as ever, and as the waters which he ate did not agree with him, he got thinner and thinner, and at the last he died. A change of habits will not alter nature.
The dog in the manger. A dog asleep in a manger felt with hay was awakened by the cattle, which came in tired and hungry from working in the field. But the dog would not let them get near the manger, and snarled and snapped, as if it were filled with the best of meat and bones, all for himself. The cattle looked at the dog in disgust. "How selfish he is," said one. "He cannot eat this hay, and yet he will not let us eat it, who are so hungry for it." Now the farmer came in. When he saw how the dog was acting, he seized a stick and drove him out of the stable, with many a blow for his selfish behavior. Do not grudge others what you cannot enjoy yourself.
The Travelers and the Sea. Two travelers were walking along the sea shore. Far out they saw something written on the waves. "Look, Swan aggressive rides in from distant lands, bearing rich treasures. The object they saw came ever near the shore. No, said the other, that is not a treasure ship. That is some fisherman's skiff, with a day catch of savory fish. Still, near came the object. The wave washed it up on shore. It is a chest of gold, lost from some Greek. They cried. Both travelers rushed to the beach, but there they found nothing but a water-soaked log. Do not let your hopes carry you away from reality.
The gnat and the ball. A gnat flew over the meadow with much buzzing for so small a creature, and settled on the tip of one of the horns of a ball. After he had rested a short time, he made ready to fly away. But before he left he begged the ball's pardon for having used his arm for a resting place. "You must be very glad to have me go now," he said. "It's all the same to me," replied the ball. "I did not even know you were there." We are often of greater importance in our own eyes than in the eyes of the neighbor. The smaller the mind, the greater the conceit.
The crow and the pitcher. In a spell of dry weather, when the birds called with very little to drink, a thirsty crow found a pitcher with a little water in it. But the pitcher was high and had a narrow neck, and no matter how he tried, the crow could not reach the water. The poor thing felt as if he must die of thirst. Then an idea came to him. Picking up some small pebbles, he dropped them into the pitcher one by one. With each pebble the water rose a little higher, until at last it was near enough so he could drink. In a bit a good use for which may help us out.
The Mother and the Wolf. Early one morning and hungry, Wolf was prowling around a cottage at the edge of a village, when he heard a child crying in the house. Then he heard the mother voice say, "Hush, child, hush! Stop your crying, or I will give you to the wolf." Surprised but delighted to prospect of so delicious a meal, the wolf settled down under an open window, expecting every moment to have the child handed over him, but though the little one continued to fret, the wolf waited all day in vain. Then toward nightfall he heard the mother's voice again, and she sat down near the window to sing and rock her baby to sleep. "There, child, there! The wolf shall not get you. No, no! Daddy is watching, and I will kill him if he should come near." Just then the father came within sight of the home, and the wolf was barely able to save himself from the dogs by a clever bit of running. The moral in the history is, don't believe everything you hear. Thank you.
The Boys and the Frogs. Some boys were playing one day at the edge of a pond in which lived a family of frogs. The boys amused themselves by throwing stones into the pond so as to make them skip on top of the water. The stones were flying thick and fast, and the boys were enjoying themselves very much, but the poor frogs in the pond were trembling with fear. At last one of the frogs, the oldest and bravest, put his head out of the water and said, "Oh, please, dear children, stop your cruel play. So it might be fun for you, it means death to us. Always stop to think whether your fun might not be the cause of another one's happiness."
The Lion and the Mouse. A lion lies asleep in the forest, his grey head resting on his paws. A timid little mouse comes upon him unexpectedly, and in her freak and has to get away. Ran across the lion's nose. Rose from his name, the lion laid his hoof back angrily at the tiny creature to kill her. Spare me, begged the poor mouse. Please let me go, and someday I will really repay you. The lion was much amused to think that the mouse could ever help him, but he was generous and finally let mouse go. Some days later, while stalking his prey in the forest, the lion was caught in the toils of a hunter's net. Unable to free himself, he filled the forest with his angry running. The mouse knew the voice and quickly found the lion struggling in the net. Running to one of the great ropes that bound him, she snapped it until in the parrot, and soon the lion was free. You laughed with and say I won't repair you, sighed the mouse. No use. See that even a mouse can help a lion. A kindness is never wasted. Thank you.
The Man is a Satyr. A long time ago, a man met a satyr in the forest and succeeded in making friends with the hyme. The two soon became the best of comrades, living together in the man's hut. But one cold winter evening, as they were walking homeward, the satyr saw the man blow on his fingers. "Why were you that?" asked the satyr. "To warm my hand," the man replied. When they reached home, the man prepared two bowls of porridge. This he placed steaming hot on the table, and the comrade sat down very cheerfully to enjoy the meal. But much to the satyr's surprise, the man began to blow into his bowl of porridge. "Why will you that?" he asked. "To cool my porridge," replied the man. The satyr sprang hurriedly to his feet and made for the door. "Could be," he sighed. "I've seen and know a fellow that blow hot and cold in the same breath cannot be friends with me."
The North Wind and the Sun. The North Wind and the Sun had a quarrel about which of them was the stronger, while they were disputing with much heat and bluster. A traveler passed along the road wrapped in a cloak. "Let us agree," said the Sun, "that he is the stronger who can strip that traveler of his cloak." "Very well," groaned the North Wind, and at once sent a cold, howling blast against the traveler. With the first gust of wind the ends of the cloak whipped about the traveler's body, but he immediately wrapped it closely around him, and the harder the wind blew, the tighter he held into him. The North Wind tore angry at the cloak, but all his efforts were in vain. Then the sun began to shine. At first his beams were gentle, and in the pleasant warmth after the bitter cold of the north wind, the traveler unfastened his cloak and let it hang loosely from his shoulders. The sun's rays grew warmer and warmer. The man took off his cap and mopped his brow. At last he became so hidden that he pulled off his cloak, and to escape the blazing sunshine threw himself down in the welcome shade of his tree by the roadside. Gentleness and kind persuasion win where force and bluster fell.
The Wolf and the Sheep. A wolf having heard in a fight with a bear, he was unable to move and could not satisfy his hunger and thirst. A sheep passed by near his hiding place, and the wolf called to him. "Please fetch me a drink of water," he begged. "That might give me strength enough so I could get me solid food." "Solid food," said the sheep. "That means me, I suppose. I if shall bring you a drink. It will only serve to guide me down you through. Don't talk to me about a drink. Anna's hypocrisy is easily seen through.
Belling the cat. The mice called a meeting to decide on a plan to free themselves of their enemy, the cat. At last they wished to find some way of knowing when she was coming, so they might have time to run away. In that something had to be done, for they lived in such constant fear of her class that they hardly dared stir for them, dance by night or day. Many plans were discussed, but none of them was strong, good enough. At last a very young mouse got up and said, I have a plan that seems very simple, but I cannot and will be successful. All we have to do is to hang a bell about the cat's neck. When we hear the bell ring it, we will know immediately that our enemy is coming. All the mice were much surprised that they had no thought of such a plan before. But in the midst of their hunting, over day could be found, and loud mouse arose and said, I will say that the plan of the young mouse is very good, but let me ask one question. What will the cat? It is on time to say that something should be done, but Kurt have different method to do it. Thank you.
Wolf and the Ass. An ass was feeding in a pasture near a wood when he saw a wolf lurking in the shadow along the head. He easily guessed what the wolf had in mind, and thought up a plan to save himself. So he pretended he was lame and began to hobble painfully. When the wolf came up, he asked the ass what had made him lame, and the ass replied that he had stepping on a sharp thorn. Please put it out, he pleaded, growing angry as if in pain. If you don't, it might stick in your throat when you eat me. The wolf said the wisdom of the advice, for he wanted to enjoy his meal without any danger of choking. So the ass lifted up his foot and the wolf began to scratch very closely and careful for the thorn. Just then the ass kicked or wheedled his mate, tumbling the wolf a dozen paces away. And while the wolf was getting very slowly and painfully to his feet, the ass galloped away in safety. Serves me right, growled the wolf as he crept into the bush. I am a butcher by trade, not a doctor. Thank you.
Two goats. Two goats frisking gaily on the rocky steep of a mountain valley, chanced to meet, one on each side of a deep chasm through which poured a misty mountain torrent. The trunk of a fallen tree formed the only means of crossing the chasm, and until not even two squirrels have passed it to utter safety.
The narrow path would have made the bravest tremble, not two or gods. Their pride would not permit either to stand aside for the other. Unser her foot on the lawn, the other did likewise in the middle same mid horn to horn. Neither would give way, so they both feel to be swept away with the roaring torrent below. It is better to yield time to come to misfortunate thought, stubbornness.
The Lion and the Ass. One day, as the lion walked proudly down a forest aisle, and the animals respectfully made way for him, and as Brayden Scurford remarked as he passed, the lion felt a flash of anger, but when he turned his hat and saw how had spoken, he quite and he who not honored the fool with even so much as a stroke of a glass. Moral. Do not resent the remark of a fool, ignore them.
The Cat and the Old Rat. There was once a cat who was so watchful that a mouse hardly dared show the tip of his whiskers for fear of being eaten alive. That cat seemed to be everywhere at once with his claws all ready for a pounce. At the last the mice kept so closely to their dance that the cat saw he would have to use his wits well to catch one. So one day he climbed up on a shelf and hung from it, head downward, as if he were dead, holding himself up by clinging to some ropes with one paw. When the mice peeped out and saw him in that position, they thought he had been hung of their punish for some misdeed. Very timidly at first they stuck out their heads and sniffed about careful, but as nothing stirred, all trooped joyful out to celebrate the death of the cat. Just then the cat let go his hood, and before the mice recovered from their surprise, he had made an end of three or four. Now the mice kept more strictly at home than ever, but the cat, who was still hungry for mouse, knew more tricks than one, rolling himself in the floor until he was covered completely. He lay down in the floor, being with one eye open for the mice. Sure enough, that mice so began to come out. To the cat it was almost as if already had a plump young mouse under his claws, when an old rat who had much experience with cats and tramps and had even lost a part of his tail to pay for it, set up and safe distance from a hole in the wall here he lived. Take care, he cried. That may be a heap of meal, but it looks to me very much like the cat, wherever it is. It is wisest to keep a safe distance. The wise do let themselves be tricked a second time.